everyone. Thank you again for joining today. My name is Kristen Moore. I'm with CU Solutions Group, and welcome to today's webinar, giving you a custom tour of the new Love My Credit Union Rewards website. So now I'd like to take the opportunity to introduce David Dean. He's our Chief Operating Officer of CUSG Marketing Solutions, and he will be conducting today's webinar.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Sorry about the little hiccup there at the top, but we really do appreciate your time, and I'm looking forward to sharing with you some pretty exciting parts of our reinvention of the Love My Credit Union Rewards program. Some of you may have recently received an email from us with a video, what we called our sneak peek. Today, we're going to do a little bit of a deeper dive, and then mostly what I want to do is I want to make sure to get to a point where I can answer any questions that you may have, any suggestions, and or any thoughts or comments about any of this. So without further ado, I will jump right in. And I do want to reiterate what Kristen mentioned earlier, and that's that we may end up having a second one of these webinars if there are a number of credit unions that were unable to join for technical issues. Okay, so moving right along, just running through quickly the agenda. I'm going to kick off at the top with a little bit of insight into our product planning process. There are a number of very unique things about this program that needed to be considered and ongoing need to be considered as we grow the program. And I want to make sure to share with you a little bit about what's going on underneath the hood, just to make sure that you all feel comfortable that everyone's interests are being well represented. Then I'm going to go spend the bulk of the time actually in the web app itself. I'm going to go to lovemycreditunion.org on a live screen share. I'm going to kind of tell you a little bit about what's there, why it's there, how it all works, and what's really special about it. Or at least I think so. And then we will talk a little bit about what's going on behind the scenes. As any of you that are involved with technology know, a lot of times things look really simple on the front end. In fact, that's really the best things. But those things that are really going on behind the scenes are the really kind of special and much more complex things. I'm not going to get into a heavy dose of technology today, but what I am going to talk a little bit about is what the technology that is going on behind the scenes enables us to do on your behalf and behalf of the credit union members. And then lastly, I'll wrap up with a product roadmap, kind of a look ahead as to where we're going with the program. We'll talk through what the next steps look like, in particular, how they pertain to each of our participating credit unions. And then we'll open it up to some questions and answers. All right, so jumping right in here to the product planning part. So as I mentioned, there's some really unique business requirements about Love My Credit Union Rewards. And before we got started with our initiative to reinvent this program, we really sat down and spent some time thinking about what was most important for each of the stakeholders involved. The stakeholders, of course, is our own team here at CUSG, but also all of the credit unions in America, particularly the participating credit unions that participate in our marketing program. And then also, obviously, the members and the interests of our various corporate partners. So we really needed to create a matrix that showed how we could make sure that everybody's interests were well represented. And naturally, what we always do is we prioritize the member first, and then it flows down to the credit unions that we represent, as well as then to ourselves and our corporate partners. So without further ado, the first thing I want to cover is kind of how we look at deals in general. There are a zillion deal sites out there. I'm sure every one of you has come across one or at least received some spam from one. If not a deal site, some sort of a deal presentation through Costco or some other membership program, maybe AAA. We're really inundated with deals in today's digital world. And one of the things that we wanted to make sure that we thought through was how can we stand out in this kind of chaotic ecosystem of deals everywhere. And what we all know, especially anybody who's a deal hunter, is that a lot of the deals really aren't all they're cracked up to be once you get into them. You kind of find out a little bit later that 10% off is kind of applied to everything, and it doesn't really mean anything, and you feel a little duped. And we wanted to make sure that members did not feel that way at all, that this is a membership enhancements program first, and we wanted to make sure that the enhancement was well represented by meaningful value. So when we look at our two different kinds of, I'll call it deal categories, the first deal category is the category that you're most familiar with from CUSG and from Love My Credit Union Rewards. And that's the really kind of high profile, recognizable US brands like Sprint and Intuit for TurboTax and of course TrueStage. These are the multi-million-dollar brands. They've spent lots and lots of money on advertising, making sure that their brand names and their logos are well recognized by all Americans. And we leverage that recognizability and the quality that goes behind those brands to introduce those deals. And then, of course, what we do is we leverage the economies of scale represented by the industry at large to negotiate discounts on behalf of the members with those big corporations. One of the other categories that we look at, or the other category, is kind of what we refer to as the wholesale category. And what that essentially means, and many of you may know this in kind of the supply chain of modern America, is that, you know, when you see a brand, a lot of times there's multiple middlemen between the producer of the widget or the product or the service and the actual brand name that you see on the front end. So what we started to do is we started to investigate those supply chains, going back sometimes 2, 3, sometimes even all the way back to the wholesale provider, so that what we could do is we could cut out those middlemen, we could save the member on the actual retail cost, by cutting out those middlemen that all kind of put their hand in the piggy bank on the way, but still get the exact same great, valuable products and services that are supplied through those recognizable brands. The reason why you see Kirkland on the screen here is because, you know, Costco is a bit notorious for that, or maybe famous for that, and that is that they have things that look and feel and smell exactly like something that you might find at another department store or retailer. But it's got a Kirkland brand on it, which is the Costco brand. What's really inside, of course, is being produced exactly the same way as that product at maybe 3 or 4 times the price somewhere else. So that was kind of our inspiration to go and dig a little deeper. In addition to the categories of deals, I wanted to talk a little bit about the deal requirements. What we absolutely recognize and take really great weight on our shoulders with is that by you and your credit unions out there marketing on behalf of this program, you're connecting your brand to our brand. And that means that we have an extra added responsibility over and above what we actually would have if we were just kind of an independent affinity deal partner. So we instituted a pretty complex and involved vetting process for each of our deals. And that really consists of vetting both the deal itself to make sure it really is true value in the marketplace at large, but then also vetting the provider of the deal, the company behind it, making sure that they handle their business with integrity, that they treat their customers well, because their customers in this case are going to end up being your members, and we want to make sure that that member experience flows and is always top notch. So what that does is that makes it a little harder for us because it's a little more time consuming to really vet those. And I can tell you quite confidently that we get rid of more offers than we accept. And what that does is that kind of slows down our pipeline. I think maybe another company in this position that didn't have that requirement or that responsibility would probably be able to put dozens and dozens of deals in right away. Some would be good, some wouldn't be great, some might come from shady partners, but they wouldn't really care at the end of it all because they're just there to kind of generate revenue. For us, it was very, very important to us that we make sure that all the deal partners and the deals they provide are best in breed. So moving on to advertising. Advertising was another thing that we quickly recognized was going to be a challenge for us. And that is each of our deal partners naturally would love to represent their brand with the end consumer directly, which means they want to do all of the messaging. They say to us, don't worry about it. We'll produce all of the marketing materials and we'll be happy to deploy those on our partnership's behalf directly to the end user, which is your member. And what we really realized was 2 problematic parts of that. One, if we do that, we don't control the messaging. And if we don't control the messaging, we don't know what they're going to say to the member. And that's not okay with us. And the other part was the air traffic control component of it. We needed to make sure that the member wasn't being inundated by too much messaging. Well, we all know, I'm sure there's some marketing people on this webinar, if not mostly marketing people, and like myself, I'm also a marketing person, and I'm very, very aware of that share of voice and that mind share in the end consumer's, space. And what we don't want to do is box out the important messaging naturally that you have about your core financial services products. We also don't want to overcomplicate our messaging to the member in terms of the value that they get peripherally through this program as a part of being a member of your credit union. So in order to make sure that that didn't happen, one of our deal requirements is that for all of our partners, all messaging has to go through us. So we have instituted a top-notch automated marketing system on our end called Marketo. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But we use that to make sure that we maintain a flow of communication about the opportunities and deals without overwhelming the user and endangering us from ending up unsubscribed or with frustrated members. Again, member experience first, always for us. And then lastly, I just wanted to comment quickly, and then we'll get to the good stuff with the live demo. But lastly, I just wanted to touch on the challenge of competitive financial services. What you probably have recognized just as a consumer is that more and more e-commerce environments are offering things like almost like the old-fashioned layaway programs, right? Like you can get it now and you can pay in equal installments, or we'll give you a quick unsecured loan, or we'd be happy to give you a great discount if you were to get our issued credit card and use our issued credit card for your transaction today and future transactions. Naturally, there's great benefits to our partners for doing that, and for obvious reasons, we needed to make sure that they didn't. So another part of each and every one of our negotiated agreements independently with each of these deal providers is that under no circumstances can there be competitive financial services ever offered through this channel, even if they offer it to consumers outside the channel on their own branded websites. Anything that's co-branded and or accessed through our platform, those are not only restricted, but we keep a close eye on that to make sure that that your interests are always well represented. All right, with that, I am going to move on to our custom tour. All right, I'm going to refresh. Here is the new lovemycreditunion.org. Many of you have probably already visited this. I hope you have. If you haven't, I would encourage you to go check it out. It's fun and fairly simple, pretty quick to get through. And of course, it is just the beginning of where this program is going. So up at the top, you'll see our Love My Credit Union Reward logo, our new brand logo, and our new Love My Credit Union Rewards you know, the font and the style and just the overall brand look has been updated. We spent a lot of time really researching kind of those nuanced, you know, kind of components of some of the more successful big brands out there. We work closely with our agency, our friends over at the DP Plus agency, to make sure that we really did a great job with this rebrand. And I think the one thing I just want to comment about that is that we really looked at trying to figure out, or we challenged ourselves, I should say, to try and figure out how we could live in that space between, hey, this is fun, this isn't too serious, we're not like a bank, we're, you know, having a great time over here and offering great value. We don't take ourselves too seriously, but at the same time, this is part of the financial services ecosystem, and we want to make sure to give that the respect that it deserves. So it's playful, but it's not silly, if that makes sense. And we really thought a lot about that. The My Profile button in the upper right, that's what you would expect it to be, and I'll show you what that does in a little bit here. But I think what's important about that, and what I'm going to show you in a couple moments here, is that unlike the former Love My Credit Union Rewards environment, where anybody could really visit it and kind of look around, we have limited availability and access to the deals now. And now users are taken through an enrollment process, and they create a user profile, and that has lots and lots of great benefits for you and us on the back end. So I'll share all that in a bit. What you see here in the middle with that silly looking puppet, and then transitioning over to our partners at TrueStage and onward, you'll see then it transitions into an Intuit TurboTax image. This is our high resolution video area. And this is really just kind of a placeholder for our what we call MVP, our minimum viable product, which is in all great products, is kind of the first release. But this is soon going to be developed into a fully produced advertisement. It's going to be high resolution and really beautifully produced. So we'll share that with you as soon as that comes out, and it will just kind of automatically replace this in an update in the coming weeks. Moving on down, we've got exclusive perks for credit. That above the fold, as they call it, we make sure that the visitor knows exactly what it is that they're here for. And then we've got the Start Saving call to action button. That button, if I was to click on it, I won't right now, but that would kind of hyperlink me down to the bottom of the page. So that just gets me down to the deals. But before we get to the deals, we demonstrate some pretty impressive numbers that most of you have seen in our newsletters and elsewhere about how many members have been served by our program, how many dollars have been saved by members, and how many credit unions have one or more members that have saved dollars through this program. Pretty impressive numbers. So we wanted to put those right up top to kind of substantiate who we are, how long we've been doing this, and that it's legit. And then we get into a little bit of the how it works. And one of the first things you might recognize, especially if you're a design person, is, gee, that looks kind of wordy. And we agree. So we're looking at ways that we can improve the communication of really what we feel are three really fundamentally important beats on the site here. What is a credit union membership for those visiting for the deals that maybe discovered them through Google, or maybe a friend forwarded an email with some of our deals in it? We want to make sure that right up top we recognize what the value of a credit union membership is, what does it mean, and that we answer that question if anybody's got it. Then how big are the savings, right? What is the value that's represented here? We want to get right off the bat, and as I mentioned before, we've all gotten that 10% off in the mailbox and thought, yeah, I have a feeling if I just walked in the door, I get 10% off. We want to make sure that we communicate clearly that these are deep discounts. We're not messing around with just like 5-10% here or there. And then the third thing is how are you able to offer such great deals? And this kind of talks to a little bit about leveraging economies of scale and how we represent lots and lots of members. And on behalf of the collaborative nature of this industry, we're able to really do some special things. Again, we just want to make sure that we clearly communicate to members and non-members what the significant value of this program is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on Discover the Credit Union Difference. Hopefully you can all see my mouse here. And when I do that, it's going to take me to a page with some additional detail about what makes credit unions so special and why someone might want to join. One of the questions that we hear on, obviously, I'm sure you do as well, is my money going to be protected at a credit union like it is at a bank? And of course it is, so we want to make sure to communicate that. And then if they're ready to join, we've got a nice call to action to find a credit union. And that hyperlinks over to a betterchoice.org, which I'm sure you're all familiar with, and would help a non-member find a nearby credit union. Okay, so with that, I'm going to click the logo up here to get me back to my home page, and you'll notice what we call our little odometers will spin, and our Start Savings button will wiggle. These are all just kind of ways of engaging the member and getting them to kind of drawing their eye and attention to the areas that we want. Also, I should mention that this is a fully responsive web application, and it is actually mobile first design. You'll hear that a lot, but this was legitimately mobile first design. And what that means is that the first way that we designed this app was in an aspect ratio that looks a bit like this. And then the user scrolls down through it and gets this really great kind of layout of the site. We designed it that way first because we wanted to make sure that on a mobile device or on a tablet, it was an outstanding user experience, since that's really the way that things are headed. But then, of course, we also made sure that it looked great on a laptop or desktop as well. Okay, so moving down here, let's get to the good stuff, the exclusive savings. This is the part that the members care the most about. We've got our Sprint, our TurboTax, and our TrueStage offers represented here, each one with an independent call to action, and each one would take the user to a unique, what we call product page, which I'll show you in a second here. And then we've got our Simply Safe offer, which is our new offer. This is an outstanding kind of not startup company, been around for a few years now, but seeing amazing success really, really, really strong, positive customer feedback. It's a do-it-yourself security system. For anybody who's not familiar with it, the system itself is less expensive than your typical big brands that you think of in that space, and the monitoring is less expensive. They also have the latest technology available with some of the Ring type. Maybe you've heard of the brand Ring that's now owned by Amazon. It's that, those doorbell cameras and kind of all the other really kind of neat components that are now kind of becoming ubiquitous as part of security systems, all offered through Simply Safe. We got a great deal. Credit members are going to receive a free home security camera plus 2 free months of 24/7 professional monitoring. It's really transparent, their whole process. And we found that the users that we've tested this with, and we always will, have really loved it. So that's why we led with this one. As I mentioned in my sneak peek video, we're going to be adding, on average, another offer every 2 to 4 weeks across the remainder of the year. I really challenged my team with an accelerated pace, and we are up for that challenge. So keep coming back regularly. You're going to see lots and lots of new offers represented. And in terms of how, so that's what that represents to the member, right? Is just constantly evolving membership enhancements and additional value that they get for being a member of your credit union. What does it mean for you? Well, a couple of things. First of all, this is kind of the way that we're approaching this is that the Love My Credit Union Rewards Marketplace is really our place to test out new offers. We do, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of deep dive into the vetting, and we try to make sure by testing with actual users and getting feedback that these deals are meaningful and that the products are loved. But you really never know until you get something out into the marketplace. So we're going to introduce these to the marketplace, and then we're going to see how they perform. We're going to market them ourselves, and we're going to see how members take to them. If they start to grow and we see some meaningful velocity, then we'll sit down with all of our participating credit unions and figure out whether there's a way that you can participate in the marketing of those to drive deeper and further engagement with the product offer in exchange for some sort of, whether it's a revenue share or a data share or some other reciprocal type agreement. In the meantime, though, there's absolutely no additional participation requirements. So what you do today for Sprint and TurboTax and TrueStage, if you do, is all you need to do. Your members will get all of this additional value. You don't have to do anything else for it. The way we look at it and kind of what we call these things internally is anchor and portfolio partners. Our portfolio partners are partners like Simply Safe, and our anchor partners are partners like TurboTax and Sprint. The reason why is because just like in a shopping mall, the anchor stores are the department stores. It's what everybody comes for. And then that foot traffic is exposed to the portfolio on their way from point A to point C. So in this case, we are going to try and drive some traffic for Simply Safe, but we're not going to ask for your help with it until we know that it matters and that there's enough scale to be meaningful on a size program like Love My Credit Rewards. So that's what it means to you. Let's get back to what it means to your member again. Start saving. I'm going to click on Start Saving on Simply Safe here. It takes us to the product page. Nice hero image up top. Another brief description of what that product looks like and what's involved with it. And then actually what I'm going to do, because I am already logged in and I want to show you the full process, I'm going to go up to my profile and I am going to log out. Don't worry, you're going to see all this again here in a moment. And I'm going to take you through what we call the enrollment process, right? So right now I'm in a logged out state on the application, and I'm going to go back down to Simply Safe, and I'm going to click on Start Saving, and I am going to click on Start Saving again because now I'm fully engaged. I'm ready for this offer. Well, when I do, it's going to tell me that it needs my email address for me to sign in or create an account. Well, I've never created an account in this case, in this kind of demo scenario that I'm showing you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type in LMCUR demo at gmail.com. And I'm going to let it keep me signed in because this is my own personal device. If I was at an airport or something or a library, maybe I wouldn't. I'm going to click continue, and it's going to tell me to check my email. that it just sent me a link to log in. And then if I didn't get that email, then there's an opportunity. It suggests that I check my spam, or there's an opportunity to resend it. So this is really nifty, right? So, and I talked a little bit about this in the sneak peek, but one of the things that was super important to us was that we wanted to make sure that the member had the most amazing member experience that we could deliver with the least amount of friction possible. And any technology company, from Google and Apple all the way down to the smallest, will tell you that the number one friction point for all consumers in all environments is remembering and managing a password. So we decided to get rid of the password altogether with some of the latest and greatest SaaS technology. It's quite costly, but it was important to us to implement this and be really on the cutting edge of the tech. All right, great. So as you see, I'm going to go over to this other tab here and check my Gmail. I'm going to hopefully get that link. Perfect. Okay. I said hopefully, not because it might not work, because this is a new Gmail address. So it worked. I'm going to click on the email. As you can see, it's going to suggest that I log in. And notice this real quick. It says, "Hi, rewards member." There's a reason why I'm pointing that out, and I'll let you know exactly why here in a moment. Tells me that it received a request for the sign-in link, and when you do this on your own, you'll be able to read through all of this, but it's just kind of a nice little note to make sure that they know what's expected of them. Hopefully I haven't been talking too long because it's only active for 15 minutes, and I will now sign into my account. It automatically opens up a new tab, and it tells me to create my profile because this is the first time that I've come in. Again, we want to minimize the friction, but we do need to know a couple things about the user, and there's a good reason for that. We're going to talk more about that on what's going on behind the scenes. But quickly for now, I'm going to give my first name, my last name. I'm going to opt in for the optional opt-in for offers and special promotions, the mandatory opt-in for that I've read and understand the privacy policy, and then I'm going to save and continue through the experience. And now I need to find my credit union. What you see on the screen right now looks super simple, but what I can tell you is that there's a ton going on behind what you see right here. So I'm going to start typing in my credit union, and I'm going to find it right here. Community Choice Credit Union is my credit union here in Michigan. So this is what's called a fuzzy search up top. It's something that we've all seen 100 times, but you don't really realize the complexity of it until you try to implement it. It was a very simple ask on my part, and my team will tell you that it was not so simple to implement. I could misspell community choice, or I could type community choice from another part of the country, and it probably would have a different top choice for me. It's using a whole bunch of data and information to try and make sure that it's super easy for me to find my credit union. And as you can see, it even has my credit union's logo in this case. And what you can see down here is that we are still capturing a lot of the credit union's logos, but we will have all of those in there sooner than later and make it easy for all members to find their credit union. So with that, I'm going to select my credit union. Is that my credit union? Yes, it is. There's my credit union's routing number, just to be absolutely certain. As you know, there's a number of credit unions that have similar, or if not identical names. So we wanted to have that on there just to be sure. And then I will confirm. It's going to save that to my profile. And here I am. I've got my community choice. I'm now in the profile area, and I've got everything good to go. I'm going to save my changes. My changes have been saved, and I am headed straight back to go get my Simply Safe deal. So I'm going to head down there, and now what you'll see is when we get to the Simply Safe page, this button has changed from start saving to unlock the savings. That means I'm in the logged in state. That's not necessarily for the member to be aware of, but it's for us on the support side to make sure that we can visibly ask them what they see and identify kind of what state the user is in. I'm going to click on Unlock the Savings, and I'm going to go to, as you'll see up here, simplysafe.com. This is our co-branded Simply Safe offer environment, and you can explore this at your leisure. But it's well designed, it's beautiful, it's endorsed by by great brands, and the user experience is quite simple from here. Very easy for them to convert, and you'll notice that the unique member discount is reemphasized right here up at the top of the page. So So let's see. I also would like to quickly show, I'm just about done with the demo here, but I just real quick want to show you, if I go back to my inbox, that I've also now received a welcome email, and what I mentioned earlier about the salutation, if you will, is this now says, "Hooray, David," and all future communications will be personalized for me. We also know, or Love My Credit Union Rewards also knows my credit union, so it can give attribution to my credit union in the messaging for the great deals. As we message these deals to the member, we always want to make sure that it's not Love My Credit Union Rewards taking the credit for this. It's the credit union who deserves the credit, because it's the membership with the credit union that's enabling this access. So in these messages, what you will see is there's going to be a lot of, this awesome membership that you have at this credit union has enabled you to have these really great deals and so on. Probably said a little more eloquently, but that's where we're at. So, okay. So I think, as I mentioned before, I'll show you my profile real quick. I showed that to you earlier, but the member can come in at any time and they can change elements of their profile. And this is, as I mentioned also earlier, an MVP. We're going to continue to expand on this. This will ultimately include their mobile number, probably their home address, and ultimately the profile will even probably include information about their vehicle, because we're going to be adding deals and discounts that they can use their VIN number or their license plate number to kind of gauge the size of the deal that they're eligible for. And naturally, all of this is going to be packaged and provided to their credit union, so that their credit union, which is you, can use this information to more contextually deliver messaging to your members and even target them for great financial services that overlap. So I think without further ado, I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint deck here. I'm going to jump into what's going on behind the scenes. I'm only going to spend about 3 or 4 more minutes on talking, and then we're going to jump into some questions. So I'm just going to push through the last couple slides here. But quickly, what's going on behind the scenes? I mentioned up top that there's some really important stuff happening back there. The website itself, or the web app itself, looks like a simple website, but it's actually so much more than that. And what partly what it's backed by is these really, really powerful SaaS solutions, or software as a service solutions. So as I mentioned, Marketo is our email marketing engine. This is a top-notch email marketing engine that's used by Microsoft and Facebook and all the top companies on the planet. And the reason why we wanted to make sure that we brought a bazooka in is that we're going to scale this thing, and we want to make sure that the messaging is always professional and handled in the same way as it is through the best brands in the market. Heap is a company that we've recently partnered with, and what Heap enables us to do is really capture what we call behavioral data. So the member is sharing with us their name and their credit union and their email address, and that's profile data or demographic data that's really good for us to know and for you to know. But where it really gets interesting is the way that we are going to be able to capture everything that they do while they're on the site. Everything from the mouse movement to the back button to each of the individual calls to action to how long it takes them to scroll below the fold. All of this data is collected for every single user every single time they visit the site. And why does all that matter? Why do we care, right? Well, that's kind of the whole big data. So we've created a data lake, and we're bringing in a data analyst. And what that data analyst is going to be able to do is tell us things that we didn't even know that data might be able to tell us, because they look for patterns in the way that behavior works up to the point of a conversion. And then, as I said, we will be able to month by month be able to share with participating credit unions really interesting and powerful insights about how their members are engaging with the platform. Naturally, you already have access to the most powerful data maybe that exists anywhere, and that's the data in the core. But when you supplement it with some of this other behavioral data that tells you a little bit about their interests or maybe where they're at in their life, it really becomes extremely powerful in what your capabilities will be to serve them and message them in a way that really connects. Okay, lastly, or maybe close to lastly, is the product roadmap. So you saw Simply Safe. This is not, cross my heart, hope to die, the actual order, but I think right now it's shaping up that this will be the order of new offers that will be added to the platform over these coming months. Next up is travel, although identity protection is giving it a good run for its money. We basically look at each of our partners, and it's kind of a first come, first serve. Once all the boxes are checked, the vetting has occurred, the deal has been inked, and we're ready to go, then they get uploaded into the marketplace. So either identity protection or travel will be next to go, and shortly on the heels of that will be legal forms and then discount car maintenance. And then we've got a whole host of other really exciting business development in play right now, which I'll share with you at a later date when it becomes a bit more mature. And then lastly, just a few things that I mentioned earlier that we would be constantly monitoring performance. It is absolutely imperative to me and my team that we are 100% transparent always with the participating credit unions that we work with. So we will be probably over-reporting to some extent, but we also will be here to answer any questions that you may want to know. If you want to know how many of my members engaged with Simply Safe or bought Simply Safe last month, we're absolutely happy to share this kind of information with you. Obviously, we have over 2,000 credit unions that participate, so my team will come up with processes because one-off requests will be pretty challenging for us. But just bear with us a little bit as we evolve this. We're going to create not just an amazing user experience for your member, but also an amazing user experience for you, which is going to involve a complete overhaul of the Partner Center. And like I said, access to data that you've never had before, that we've never had to share before, but that now we're enabled to. We're excited to do so. And then naturally, in addition to it, data is just data. But until it becomes insight, it's just a bunch of headache. So what our team is also here to help with is how you can use that data, how you can monetize that data, and how you can maximize the value of it by creating deeper relationships with your members. And we're super excited to be very helpful with you if you do need help with that. If you just want the raw data, we'll give you that. And if you want us to help you figure out how to best use it, that's what we do at Marketing Solutions. And very, very last thing, you see Moneyball marketing on there, kind of a funny term. So I'm just going to quickly share that what we're doing on the client support side of the house is not just looking at how we can improve and overhaul the Partner Center and not just provide you with additional data points about your members' engagement with the platform, but also how are members engaging with your messaging? How are they engaging with the marketing messaging that you do on behalf of our anchor programs like Sprint and TurboTax and TrueStage? We're really looking closely and working closely with all of you to help us gain that insight so that something that may be working for you, once that goes into kind of a collective bucket, if you will, of other credit unions that may have kind of similar demographics to you, what it can do is it helps us gain insight, the kind of all boats rise kind of thing. We can look at it and go, that really worked well over there. What if we tried that over here? Yep, it worked really well over here. How can we share that with 200 credit unions now? Because they're breaking their backs to do these three things, which don't seem to be having much impact. And what we're really doing, working hard on this end, is just to make sure that we're closely monitoring the actual attribution with your efforts to make sure that we optimize the value of every effort you make. Because as I mentioned earlier, the share of voice is critical, and there's no sense in using it on things that are not impacting or connecting with the member. So with all of that, I am going to take a breath, maybe for the first time in 30 minutes, and I am going to open this up for questions. So I'll turn it back over to Kristen for help with that.
Great, thanks. We do have a few questions. So if you do have any questions, you could just submit them now using the question widget in the GoToWebinar. One of the questions we have is, will we have a branded landing page, or are all members directed to this homepage? And no, individual credit unions will not have a branded landing page. All members will be directed to lovemycreditunion.org.
Well, yeah, let me be more specific on that. So, because there's kind of some nuances to it. First of all, the branded landing pages for TurboTax will not change. You're going to maintain your microsites for TurboTax just as they are today, and those can be accessed through lovemycreditunion.org just as they are today. But once the member logs in, as you noticed in the demo, we now know their credit union. So it's really seamless. When they go to the product page for TurboTax and they click on Start Saving, they will be hyperlinked to your co-branded environment, just like they are today, but without having to do the drop down and the Find My Credit Union and wait, is this the right one and all that stuff. So we've made that process much cleaner for those that do engage from lovemycreditunion.org, just like it works today. But your microsite for TurboTax will remain the same. There won't be, we're going to have one central lovemycreditunion.org site, again, just like we have today, not co-branded, and that's kind of the catch-all. But we are going to be supplying each, we are going to be putting marketing assets for each of the new partners into the Partner Center, where you'll be able to grab them. Again, like I mentioned before, no obligation, no ask on our part, no requirement for any part of your existing revenue share or anything like that, but we're gonna have those assets out there. So say we introduced discounted travel, which we will, and say that you had a travel loan that you really wanted to push, and you might wanna pull that marketing asset down, co-brand it yourself, which you're more than welcome to do, and then you can send members into that environment. That environment, for the time being, would not be co-branded, but we will be reporting to you all the engagement with that environment. So then you can follow up with an email saying, "We hope you enjoyed the experience," or, you know, "You saved X number of dollars by being a member of our credit union, and isn't that great?" and so on. But no, today we don't have plans to co-brand the actual Love My Credit Union website for each of the, you know, thousands of credit unions that participate. This just becomes kind of a central catch-all, and then it will kind of navigate the member accordingly. If that didn't answer the question or you have anything else, please type it back in.
Great. One of our other questions, will our login credentials stay the same? Now, this can be one of two issues. One, for the Partner Center, if you're referring to the Partner Center, yes, your login credentials will stay the same. And if you're referring to the lovemycreditunion.org site, once you create a profile, your login credentials will stay the same, but you do have the opportunity in the profile to update your email address and or change your credit union. But if it's the Partner Center, your login credentials are exactly the same as they were. And if you're creating a profile at lovemycreditunion.org, then the profile will remain the same unless you change it.
Yeah, and let me just as always, I've got 2 more cents. So let me just quickly share. So one thing is that in the current state, the Partner Center is accessed through this member-facing site. We recognize that that's not exactly ideal, right? The member can't go anywhere if they click on Partner Center, which, let me just bring that back up. So if you see down here in the footer, the Partner Center exists down at the bottom. If I go back to the home page here, are you still seeing the screen share? Yeah. Okay. So so down here, you'll see the Partner Center is accessed down there. And that's just like it is today. You still need to log in. Your credentials will still remain the same. But in on our roadmap, if you will, or one of the kind of future state iterations of this product, is that Partner Center is really only going to show up for credit union team members, participating credit union team members. It wouldn't show up even for the member. Since you have to have a login now on the front end, you won't ultimately need, you as the credit union employee will not actually need to have a separate set of credentials for the Partner Center, because you're going to log in the same way as everybody else with an email address. You're going to have a profile that we've already verified as being a part of the credit union, and you won't need to do this kind of double login as you do today. We just wanted to focus all of our attention on the member first. Now that we've improved that experience, now we're going to start shifting over toward how we make it smoother for you. And then naturally, as Kristen said, the member, of course, doesn't really have credentials anymore. They just use an email address, and then they get that magic link in their email, and then they're in.
Great. Next question, do these partners also work with other groups such as AARP, or are they exclusive to us?
No, in most cases, they work with others as well. Most of them have military discounts. A lot of them have student discounts. In many cases, they work with AARP and others. what our commitment on the offer component is in terms of the value itself is that we'll never offer anything that's widely available on the open market, meaning a non-membership program. But not that we won't offer it, but our deal has to be better than what you find out there just by a quick Google search. But some of these deals may be matched by other membership programs.
Great. Next question, and I think this addresses maybe a few questions that we have. Our credit union logo is outdated. How can we change it? And
yeah, perfect. So I'm actually really glad that you brought that up. Thank you. And that was something I meant to mention earlier is because literally every credit union in America is represented in that fuzzy search that I shared. We could really use, we're doing the best that we can to get all the current logos and then to double check those with the current websites. But if you recognize that it's not, that the logo is not current, we would love to hear from you, and then ideally we would love to get your current logo. So Anne-Marie, how would you like to make sure that comes in an organized way? Does that go to the client support?
Yes,
or?
the best thing to do is send a copy of your logo to client support at csolutionsgroup.com, and we will load it into our system.
And if you have more than one, as we call it, aspect ratio, please send whatever you've got. We want to make sure you're always represented on any page the best way that we can, and obviously with the highest resolution that you can email, of course. But please send us a logo that's current, and we'll get it on there right away.
yeah, so the email address again is clientsupport@cusolutionsgroup.com.
Okay, I know we're running short, and we've got a lot more questions, so I'm going to be brief in my answers, and then you can always circle back with us if you need additional clarity.
The next question, if a member already has SimpliSafe, can they get additional savings or savings they didn't get when they signed up with SimpliSafe?
Bad time for me to be brief because this will sound blunt, but no. Unfortunately, it's just an offer for new customers.
Next question, how will these changes impact the marketing quarterly requirements for the revenue share with Sprint?
Yeah, so another easy one. They won't at all. The marketing requirements for Sprint remain exactly as they are. They're not impacted in any way by this. But our hope is that if your members discover lovemycreditunion.org, the new lovemycreditunion.org, and some of the new deals on their way to, say, for instance, SimpliSafe or Travel or any one of the new ones, they might see that Sprint offer. They probably heard about it from you already, and that might be their moment of going, you know what, let's just do that too. And of course, that's going to generate some new opportunity for you as well.
Great. How do you verify the user is a credit union member when they log in?
Yeah, great question. So one of the biggest challenges that we have, this is a tough one to answer succinctly, but I'm going to just kind of be really brief, and then I would love input if any of you have it, because I'm sure you work with other vendors that are faced with the same challenge. There's really only three ways that we've been able to come up with to verify credit union membership. One is to send an ACH, like a 1 or 2 cents ACH to the account, which is just logistically not feasible, not really even because of cost for us, although that is a challenge, but also just because of friction for the member. Just to try and get an offer, we can't go through the whole, I'm going to send you this, check your account for 3 days, and then come back and verify it just so that I can see if I can save on SimpliSafe. So it's just too much friction in the process. The second part is partnering with a company like Plaid or other that leverages the mobile banking or digital banking credentials. That, again, is extremely expensive, or not again, but that is extremely expensive. And also the problem is that a lot of your members may not have digital banking credentials, and we don't want to restrict them. So really the only third viable solution that we've been able to come up with would be our participating credit unions provide us with a member database so that we could go ping that member database and check that they really are a member when they say they are. And obviously that involves some complexity, and we've had credit unions express that they have some challenges with that. So we're definitely exploring solutions for that, but right now it's a bit more of just an honor system, except for Sprint naturally, which requires the actual ACH of the $100 reward.
Next question, does the member have to input their credit card, debit card number in order to get a quote? I'm wondering if you're referring to TrueStage, yes. And no, they do not. When they request a quote, they click on the quote button, they fill out the form, and then they're contacted directly by an agent from TrueStage to discuss their insurance needs. Next question, what is the timeline for revamping the Partner Center?
Boy, I'll tell you, we are very, very ambitiously going to attack it. It's a bit of a monster, as you know, meaning it's just it's serving so many different needs for so many different credit unions that it's just, it's a unique challenge, but it is quite literally currently, as I speak, in another room being discussed by our product team. And we are exploring kind of the architecture of how it'll all work. And then what we will do is we'll provide you updates in the newsletter on how that's going and what the timeline looks like as soon as we have it.
The next question, what is the website? It's lovemycreditunion.org, and that's the same URL as it had been previously to the new reinvention redesign.
All right, super. And I want to respect everyone's time. I'm sure you have other meetings. This last question, I think, only came through partially on the Safely Safe areas. So if there's any questions that we didn't answer, please reach out to any of us. Do we have, who's the primary contact for questions? Client support? Yeah, your client manager, client support representative would really be the best one, and they'll be able to make sure that the question gets to the proper person. But I really, on behalf of all of us, want to thank you for joining us today. We're really excited about this. That's probably pretty apparent. It's only going to get better from here, and we really, really appreciate all your participation and help with the program. So thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.